And we've new drama now. It's set in London in the 1920s.
Why shouldn't we, Johnny? Tell me.
Oh, but that's ridiculous.
No, but really...
People will never...
You know, I believe they will. Bores and other tiresome people removed legally and without cruelty.
For a reasonable fee.
Apply Chippet and Johnson.
Johnson and Chippet.
Johnson and Chippet.
Thank you.
We present Johnson and Chippet, a series of 3 stories by Hugh Walpole, dramatized for radio by Peter Mellors, with Bernard Hepton as Seymour Johnson and David Timson as Clarence Chippet. This week, the Hearty Optimist.
This idea of ours for making money, which both Chip and I had to do pretty quickly, was too fantastic. I should perhaps explain our poverty. I, Seymour Johnson, am a serious, realistic novelist, the sort whose books sell in a good season no more than 2,000 copies. As for Chip, Clarence Chippet, we've been friends for years. He resigned from the diplomatic service for the good romantic reason that he had fallen in love, and the young lady in question wouldn't hear of leaving London and all its social delights for any foreign posting. So we both had to find another way of making a living. Well, Chip, they'll come flocking here, will they?
When they've had time to read the paper and decide that the service we're offering will solve their pressing personal problem, don't be pessimistic.
Why should they bring their troubles to us, complete strangers?
Because we are uniquely qualified to help. Oh, have faith, Johnny, and trust.
The trouble with you, Chip, is you're not practical. I believe in facing facts, telling the truth. And what I'm telling you, Chip, is that a bit of romance may be all right in one's private life, but when it comes to business...
When it comes to business, you see, I know what I'm talking about. Come in. Oh, good morning, madam. Come in, come in. Do sit down.
I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Chippet.
The pleasure is mine, Mrs.
Mrs. Charles Lane.
We are all ears, Mrs. Lane.
Gentlemen, I have been married for 15 years to one of the kindest, most amiable, most faithful of human beings, and that is saying a good deal nowadays, men being what they are. You will think it very curious, therefore, that it is nevertheless about my husband that I have come to speak to you.
Well, perhaps he is too kind and tender.
The fact of the matter is that my husband has grown through all these years into the most terrible optimist.
Oh, well, that can't be bad, Mrs. Lane.
But he is so persistently cheerful, looks so deliberately on the bright side of things, refuses entirely to be upset by anything, even toothache, that the children and I are discovering, to our horror, that although we love Charlie very much, we are beginning to avoid his company.
Oh.
I don't know if you're married men.
No, we're not, unfortunately.
Well, if you were, you would understand how terrible it is to know that, however irritating things are, your husband will always feel that they are for the best. However gloomy you yourself may be when you wake up in the morning, you will inevitably hear your husband singing in his bath. Now, I'm sure this seems ludicrous to you, but this simple thing is breaking up our home life and making me almost hate my husband.
Oh, Mrs. Lane.
And yet I love him. Oh, I love him. How deeply no one can know.
Oh, there. Now, don't be distressed, Mrs. Lane.
I just wondered whether perhaps, as you're so very clever, that you could think of some way to make him a little less cheerful, not so invariably optimistic. Unless something can be done, I shall have to leave him. I don't know what foolish or mad thing I may do if you won't help me. Well, he'll be round here in a moment to fetch me. I told him to call for me here, because I thought you ought to see him.
Yes, you were quite right. The sooner the better.
This is a very difficult case, Mrs. Lane. After all, if we were to succeed in spoiling your husband's temper, you might not thank us afterwards, you know.
Anything would be better than this. And anyway, Charlie can never really be angry. He hasn't got the temperament for it. Ah, there he is now. Believe me, gentlemen, just a little outburst about once a month would make all the difference to me.
Come in.
Excuse me, that is my wife. Ah, Vala, darling, there you are.
This is my husband, gentlemen.
How do you do, Mr. Lane?
How do you do?
Chippet's my name, and this is my partner, Johnson.
Hello, Mr. Lane.
How do you do?
Sit down.
Ah, thank you so much. Yes. I'm delighted to meet you, gentlemen. What a charming place you have here. I just looked in to fetch my wife from a little shopping that we're going to do together. Well, little woman, you ready to come along?
Yes, Charles.
That's right. Splendid morning for shopping. Well, it's a bit overcast outside. Very thing to make you like to be undercover. Wonderful weather we've been having, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I don't know. It's rained pretty steadily the last few days.
Oh, come. We must have some rain sometimes. Nothing so bad as a drought, you know. Let's have rain now. We'll have fine holiday weather later on. Well, what do you think of the general situation?
Well, it seems to me about as bad as anything could be.
Do you think so?
Aye.
How strange. Oh, everything's improving, it seems to me. I think it's marvellous that we've come through these years since the war with as little trouble as we have. No, things couldn't be better, in my opinion, and I'm not generally an optimist. Am I, Mother, old girl?
Well, Charlie?
I mean, I've enjoyed splendid health, gentlemen, all my days. I've been a lucky man, too, with the best wife in the world and 3 of the most ripping little nippers you ever saw in your life. No, you know, I attribute my health to having a cold bath every day of the year, winter and summer, followed by a quarter of an hour's exercise before the open window.
I wonder you don't catch your death of cold.
No. Never felt better. Well, little woman, shall we go?
I was waiting for you, Charles.
Well, oh, my mistake. Oh, well, come on, old girl.
Mrs. Lane, I'll see what we can do. I'll call you later.
Oh, I shall be most grateful.
Come on, old girl. Goodbye, gentlemen. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, help your neighbour and yourself.
Oh, dear.
It's yours, Johnny. Mr. Lane is all yours.
Thanks very much. You know, listening to that optimist was the most depressing thing that's happened to me in days.
Oh, cheer up, Johnny. It's all going to be ripping.
Soon after that, one beautiful afternoon, I found myself sitting in Mr. Lane's garden in Maida Vale, watching him, in his shirt sleeves, bend over the little flower beds that ran beneath the old red brick walls, pulling out weeds and doing mysterious things with a trowel. As I watched Mr. Lane's broad back and stout legs, I said to myself, I'm beaten at this game before I'd begun it. How am I ever going to turn this man into a pessimist?
Oh, by Jove, it is jolly, this weeding. There's nothing like it for sheer fun. Why everybody doesn't spend all his time weeding, I can't think.
Well, it's a good thing they don't, or there'd be nothing ever planted.
Do you think so? Well, planting's very jolly, too. Anything to do with the garden's splendid and jolly.
Well, I simply don't agree with you. I think you're talking nonsense.
I dare say I am. I do talk a great deal of nonsense. Don't you like gardens, then?
Oh, the gardens are all right.
You mean the people in them are so tiresome. Yes, well, now there I can't agree with you. I mean, I love my fellow humans. People are fascinating, I think. Nobody's dull if you really get to know him. We all have a good side, you know, as well as a bad side, and if you only look at the good side, well, naturally, you like people better.
Oh, Lord.
Of course, you see, I'm not a clever fellow like you are. Now, I do admire men who write and do all that sort of thing. Tell me, how do you write? I mean, how do you begin, for instance? I mean, how do you think of all those things that they say to one another? I mean, how does a book start in your head?
Now, look here, if you don't mind, let's talk about something else.
I say, you're not feeling ill, are you? Look, is the sun too much for you? Look, I'll move our chair.
For heaven's sake, leave me alone.
Oh, just you wish, Johnson.
Charlie, where are you?
Hello, darling! Here, come out and join us. We've been having this delightful talk.
An awful thing's happened. The housemaid has just broken that pretty breakfast set.
Has she? Oh, what a funny thing to do.
She's broken about £1's worth of china.
£1? Oh, never mind, dear. We'll get another one. In my opinion, maids don't smash things half often enough. We get so tired of always seeing the same china at every meal. We haven't had a new breakfast set for ever so long.
Well, of course, if you're a millionaire.
Oh, that's all right, darling. Don't you worry. We'll be into tea soon. Oh, look. Shall we head out here? By Jove, it's fun to have tea in the garden. Just think, having tea in the garden. What a
No.
Where are you going, Johnson?
I'm awfully sorry, but I must be getting back, I'm afraid. I'm not feeling very well.
Oh, look. Hang on. Here.
What?
Look, I'll tell you what. When I'm feeling a bit off colour, I just go up to my bedroom, strip, and do a few exercises. It puts me in condition in no time. Look, if you like to wave your arms a bit, you're quite welcome to the room upstairs.
I'll come and have tea some other day.
What? Oh, jolly good. All right, have it your own way. Come along, darling. Let's get stuck into the cucumber sandwiches.
What's up, Johnny? You look as if life has lost its interest for you.
Well, I can thank Lane the Optimist for that. The more cheerful he is, the more suicidal I feel. How can one make a man unhappy?
Yes. Oh, you know, Johnny, there was something in the paper this morning. Now, I wonder if... where is it? There. Here we are. Yes, listen to this. Society for the Promotion of Happiness. All those who are interested in the happiness and well-being of their fellow creatures are cordially invited to pay a visit to the offices of the above society, where they will realize that gloom and depression are not natural to the spirit of man and may be avoided by the simplest of methods.
Well, I'll go and see them.
So, you've come to inquire about our work.
Yes, I have. I read your notice.
Our work is an effort to bring into this grey-tinged world the spirit of happiness, to make men and women realize that it is in themselves to command their destinies.
I see. Well,
We have found that by a steady reiteration of some of the more obvious rules of a well-ordered life, by such simple things as early rising, cold baths, a few exercises, and the steady practice of healthy laughter, the world may be turned into a garden, and we may go dancing through life, our heads up, our voices lifted in song, our mood an inspiration to all those around us.
Well, that's very interesting. Can you show me any of your work in progress?
Certainly. Follow me.
Thank you.
Here we are. Ready, ladies and gentlemen? Good. Now, when I get to 6, I want you to laugh. You will find it easier if you begin to smile at 2. Let the smile become broad at 4, a faint ripple of laughter at 5, and a broad outburst on the word 6. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We went into a further room. Here, there were some half-dozen men, all middle-aged or over, all with their coats off, engaged in bending down, trying to touch their toes. A thin little man, the instructor, was dancing about in a perfect tempest of rage.
No, that won't do at all. You've got to touch your toes as though you like it. And don't look so gloomy, Mr. Green. As I told you before, you'll find it much easier if you think of something pleasant while you're doing it. Something really fine and healthy. Now then, remember, straight up with 1, arms out with 2, 3, half bend at the hips. Ready? Here we go then. Ready? 1. Straight up. Come on, come in. 2. Arms out. Arms out, Mr. Green. 3, half bend at the hips. Very good, very good. What are you thinking about, Mr. Green?
Tell me, Miss Allen,
Yes.
who are these men?
Those are all city men who are either in danger of or have actually suffered from severe financial losses.
It must be rather melancholy altogether like that. Wouldn't it be better to mix them up with a few men whose affairs are rather brighter?
We've found that the thought of one another's losses cheers them up. They like to feel that there are some others in the same position as themselves. You understand? Now, this we call the Friends in Council Room. Here we introduce to one another lonely folk who have no friends or any great interest in life. They come here for an hour in the afternoon and talk together.
The lonely folk didn't look at all as though they were enjoying themselves, except one fat little man who was pouring out a flood of words into the ears of a rather grim-looking lady who kept trying to interrupt him. When we'd been there 2 or 3 minutes, this lady jumped up and hurried towards us.
Miss Allen, I have not paid 12 guineas to come here and be insulted. I don't like that gentleman. I don't want to talk to him any more. I'm going straight home, and you can whistle for your other 5 guineas.
Now, Miss Sturgis. Hysteria. You know that when the clock strikes the half hour, you can all change partners. Now,
Allen.
go back to him and give him a fair test. Well, what do you think?
I'm rather impressed. Miss Allen, I have a friend who could, I think, very much help you in your work.
Oh, is he melancholy, overstrung, unhappily married, or suffering from an incurable disease?
Oh, not at all. He's a very happy man, and it's just there that I think he can help you.
In what way?
Finished with the morning paper, Chip?
Yes, here you are.
Thanks.
I say, it's not like you, Johnny, to have time on your hands.
It's just for a day or two. While Mr. Charles Lane is either cured by those happiness people's methods or...
You took him there, did you?
to the door and left him. Now I'm waiting to hear what happened. I'm afraid he might burst in here any moment. Oh, Lord.
Come in.
Good morning, postman.
Morning, sir. Letter for you.
Oh, thank you.
Good day, gentlemen.
Good day.
There's a postmark made of ale.
And it looks like a lady's handwriting.
I trust you to notice that. Must be from Mrs. Lane. Yes, it is. Dear Mr. Johnson, I know you're trying to help me, and I'm sure you have some clever plan, but I really would be glad to know
what purpose you hope to serve by introducing my husband to that society for the promotion of happiness. He says he's thinking of introducing some of their methods into our family. He frightened John and Dulcie, our 2 eldest children, out of their very lives by making them laugh according to numbers, with the result that they both burst into tears and were sent to bed without their supper. I'm sure this isn't the kind of thing that you intended, and I think you ought to know what's happening. Yours sincerely, Viola Lane.
Oh, dear.
Poor woman. You know, Johnny, you've disappointed her.
You should remember it was your idea to send him to that place. I think it's too early to write it off as a failure. These things take time.
Well, don't you think you should tell her?
Yes.
Write her a letter.
Yes, I think I will. Now. Dear Mrs. Lane, have a little patience, and you will see that I am right.
I don't want to explain more.
Yes. I don't want to explain more just now. Give me a week.
Well, Johnson,
Oh, Lord.
isn't it a splendid day?
Lane, if it weren't for there being no sun and it's been drizzling steadily all morning, I should agree with you.
Well, of course. I mean, it's not exactly a day for being out of doors. Are you doing anything this afternoon?
Yes, several things. Why?
Well, I'm going to pay a call on Miss Allen. I had a little argument with her yesterday.
Really?
Yes, it seemed to me that she was forcing her pupils into a mood a little too obstinately. What do you think?
Well, perhaps there's something in that.
You know, as a matter of fact, It's a pretty awful thing when somebody's cheerful the whole time. I mean, those people at Miss Allen's never drop it for a moment. You've always got to be laughing, smiling, singing and dancing. I mean, of course, I do admire the work they're doing, but they may make it a little too monotonous.
Did you say that to her yesterday?
Yes. She didn't seem to like it. I wish you'd come along with me.
Well, I will. If you really want me to.
Oh, thank you, old man.
Do come in, Mr. Johnson, and sit down. Mr. Lane, would you stand here, please?
Yes, if you like.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an exciting experiment. Just watch Mr. Lane. Watch him laugh. And I beg you to notice how all the muscles of the face are involved at precisely the same instant. Miss Burgess?
Yes, Miss Allen.
Would you mind reading a little from Jerome K. Jerome's 3 Men in a Boat?
I shall be delighted, Miss Allen.
Now, at the end of this little anecdote, you will see Mr. Lane convulsed with laughter. Watch him very carefully, please. Begin reading, Miss Burgess.
I remember Harris telling me once of a bathing experience he had at Boulogne. He was swimming about there near the beach when he felt himself suddenly seized by the neck from behind and forcibly plunged under water. He struggled violently, but whoever had got hold of him seemed to be a perfect Hercules in strength, and all his efforts to escape were unavailing. He'd given up kicking and was trying to turn his thoughts upon solemn things when his captor released him. He regained his feet and looked round for his would-be murderer. The assassin was standing close by him, laughing heartily. But the moment he caught sight of Harris's face as it emerged from the water, he started back and seemed quite concerned. "I really beg your pardon," he stammered confusedly, "but I took you for a friend of mine."
Thank you, Miss Burgess. Now, everybody, watch Mr. Lane. Mr. Lane, we are waiting for you to laugh. Mr. Lane?
I'm awfully sorry. Somehow when you all expect it like that, Besides, I don't think that's very funny.
Oh, indeed. Miss Burgess, will you please read on? Now, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this passage, it is to be hoped that Mr. Lane will laugh.
Yes.
Harris thought it was lucky for him the man had not mistaken him for a relation, or he would probably have been drowned outright.
Mr. Lane, we're waiting.
Look, it's awfully hard to laugh to order, Miss Allen. Perhaps another day I'll be better.
Mr. Lane!
Mrs. Lane.
Good morning, gentlemen.
My dear lady, you look amazingly happy. Do come in.
Oh, thank you.
Well, tell us, Mrs. Lane, what has happened?
Something quite incredible. My husband actually swore at one of the children.
Oh, bravo!
This is progress indeed.
Oh, how clever you are, Mr. Johnson.
Oh.
Of course, he's always perfectly sweet in the morning, but when he comes back to dinner, after seeing Miss Allen and those other people, his temper is quite uncertain. And he told me this morning that he thought it was a great mistake for people always to be cheerful.
Oh, well now.
I'm going to give him a bad egg for breakfast tomorrow morning and have the greatest hopes of the result.
Lane's progress was, after this, very rapid indeed. He arrived in my office a week later looking quite upset.
Ah, I say, Johnson.
Yes?
Look, I'm hanged if I'm going to that place again.
Well, I shouldn't. You're your own master.
No, but Miss Allen's so persistent. She'll come round to the house and fetch me. She orders me about as though I'm 10 years old. You know, I almost swore at her last night to see what she'd do.
Oh, you're getting on.
Getting on? What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. I'll see you tomorrow at your house.
At my house?
Your wife's invited me to tea.
Why?
I really must thank you, Mr. Johnson, before Charlie comes down. It's wonderful how he's improving. That Miss Allen rang up on the telephone this morning, and he wouldn't go near it, and told me to tell her something quite dreadful.
Oh, dear.
And when Dulcie woke him up last night from his after-dinner sleep, he snapped at her, just just like a real man. Oh, I'm so grateful. Oh, dear. Who can that be?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's...
Miss Allen!
Mrs. Lane, your husband has broken his word to me. He promised he'd be with us this afternoon at our funny story circle, and I've come to know why he was not present.
Now, look here, Miss Allen. I'm not to be ordered about this way, you know. I was busy over other things.
Now, Mr. Lane, you know that's not right. When a gentleman's given his word, he keeps it.
I didn't give my word. I simply said I might come. Well, I thought better of it, that's all.
Mr. Lane, is this the way to make others happy?
I don't care a hang whether others are happy or not. I'm sick of seeing people happy. I'll tell you what, Miss Allen, your place would be a lot better if there was a little more ill temper in it. I am not coming any more.
You are coming, Mr. Lane, and you know you are.
You dare to say that before my wife? Do you know where you are? I tell you, I am not coming to your beastly place. I am not going to laugh toward her, and I am going to lose my temper when I want to. It's a poor sort of man who doesn't get angry sometimes. I'm sure my wife will agree with me.
Oh, I do indeed.
Mr. Lane, you have turned your face from the light. Upon your own head be it.
Well, I'm hanged. Of all the infernal, meddlesome women, by Jove, I'd like to break something. Why do you sit staring at me like that, Viola? Don't you think it's irritating enough, Mr. Johnson, for a man to be scolded in his own house without having his wife stare at him as though he's an animal out of the zoo? By Jove, it's enough to make any man lose his temper.
That's right, dear. Lose your temper. I've been waiting for that for weeks.
Oh, it's too much. Too much.
That was The Hearty Optimist, the first of 3 short stories by Hugh Walpole in our series Johnson and Chippet, dramatized for radio by Peter Mellors. The cast was as follows: Johnson, Bernard Hepton; Chippet, David Timson; Charles Lane, Jonathan Cecil; Viola Lane, Miranda Forbes; Miss Allen, Melinda Walker; the instructor, Robin Summers; and Miss Sturgis, Gwen Cheryl. Technical presentation, Keith Perrin. Johnson and Chippet was a BBC World Service drama production, directed by Walter Acosta.
But first, we continue our drama series set in London in the 1920s.
Tell me, Johnson, is it true that you and that chap Clarence Chippet have set up in business to get rid of bores and other social nuisances?
Yes, it is true. There does seem to be a great demand for our professional services.
Oh, good. Good.
We present Johnson and Chippet, a series of 3 stories by Hugh Walpole, dramatized for radio by Peter Mellors, with Bernard Hepton as Seymour Johnson and David Timson as Clarence Chippet. This week, The Talkative Diplomat.
As I said, Banting, business is booming.
Well, would you believe it? My life is being made a misery by the greatest bore even you can have had the misfortune to meet.
Oh, who is this phenomenon?
You mean you'll take the case?
Well, for the usual fee, £150.
Oh, don't worry about the fee. We'll gladly pay it if you'll do the job.
Who's we?
Well, virtually the entire club membership.
And what's the job?
Well, it's, look, let's toddle along to the club, and on the way I'll tell you. All I'm going to do is point the fellow out to you and then flee. You know old Marcus Pendyce?
What's Sir Marcus Pendyce?
Yes, 5 chins, 2 stomachs, and a face like a beetroot. He's the greatest bore the world has ever seen.
How old is he? Is he married?
He's well over 70 and ought to be silently contemplating his final dissolution. He's a widower with no children. He's the greatest bore.
Yes,
the
you
world
said
has-
that already. What is it you want me to do?
Why, to get him out of the club so we can have a decent social life again.
Do you mean to tell me that all you strong and healthy men are unable to deal with one poor old widower over 70? Ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
One poor old widower? You wait until you see him. He's got the strength and stamina of a marathon runner. He's absolutely unbeatable.
Have you tried being rude to him? I've known rudeness work wonders.
You know, Banting, the Saucepan's a very agreeable club. I've missed it. I've been too busy.
So have I. Missed it, I mean. Oh, I'm tired of browsing in bookshops and plodding round museums and art galleries just to pass the time. Cigar?
Oh, thanks. Also, it's a very pleasant escape from the hurly-burly of the world outside.
It was, before Pendyce brought his boring voice back from... Oh, Lord, there he is.
Oh, it was a perfect miracle of luck that I was there at all.
Look, Johnson, he's buttonholed young Crane, one of our newest members.
Just in the nick of time.
I looked across the room and saw a stout, red-faced man with white hair, slightly on end, which gave him a cockatoo appearance, holding forth to a young man who was staring at him with the fascinated absorption of a rabbit in front of a snake.
Well, then I say it was a perfect miracle of luck that I was there at all. Yes, I see. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Come along, Johnson. We'll join
the
them.
Bellerophon turning up just in the nick of time. Well, I've no idea what would have happened.
Oh, Pendyce. I want to introduce you to a clever friend of mine, Mr. Seymour Johnson, who does a bit of writing, among other things. I hope we're not interrupting.
Well, as a matter of fact, I was telling you...
No, indeed, you're not interrupting. I must be going, I'm afraid, sir. Sir Marcus have a very important appointment. I think Giles...
Oh, very well. Good day. Oh, what's happened to these young fellas nowadays? They haven't got any manners, haven't got any interest in things either. You know, that was a most remarkable affair, that eruption. I remember it as though it was yesterday. I can see now the shape of the island, with the bay running from east to west.
Yes, there's nothing I'd like better than to have your account of it, Pendyce. But I see Blackstone over there waiting for me, so I'll just leave you with my friend Johnson for 5 minutes and come back. I say, Blackstone.
Well, everyone seems very busy today. So you're a painter, Jackson,
Johnson, and I'm a writer.
What do you write? History? I wrote history once. The condition of the potato disease in eastern Manchuria.
No, I couldn't write history. I have a very inaccurate mind. I write novels.
Oh, novels. That's a funny thing. Yeah, talking of novelists, I used to know a fellow called Trollope who wrote novels. Big, heavy, stupid man. But I'll never forget, it must have been in the late 80s, I said a good thing to that fella Trollope. I was in the Garrick Club one day, lunching with old Boney Hackett, and I said something about novels. You know, hadn't any time to read them, better things to do, all that sort of thing. And Trollope got as red as a turkey cock. Yeah, a turkey cock. And said to me some cheek about thinking that diplomatists had plenty of time for everything. And I said, heavens, what did I say?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. When I was minister in Constantinople, there was a chap there who said he was going to write his memoirs. Furnival, his name was. Fernbanks. Or Turnbull, perhaps. Can't remember exactly. But I know he had an awfully pretty wife.
Well, if you don't mind, Sir Marcus, I really
Well, I remember a young cousin of mine there, Bertie Pendyce. Poor fella. Got himself eaten by a shark.
Oh.
Lower half of him bitten right off.
Lord.
Left a wife and 4 children. Pretty little woman she was, and they hadn't a penny. She married afterwards, young Sparks.
who ran off with that opera singer in Paris. What was her name? Large, fat, red-faced woman. She was always unlucky. Mrs. Sparks, I mean. Devilish pretty, too, but never seemed to hit on the right man. She married a third time, you know.
Very sorry, Sir Marcus, but I must be off. Banting is waiting for me. I've enjoyed very much what you've been telling me, and hope we'll have another talk one day.
Oh, we must indeed. I haven't had such an interesting conversation for a long time. Come along and have a meal with me one evening. 5 Half Moon Street, eh? Yes. Always glad to see you. And you shall tell me more of your doings, eh?
Johnson?
Hello, Banting. Just been hearing all your friends' adventures.
Have you, indeed?
Yes, very interesting, very indeed. I was just telling him about poor Millie Sparks. Did you ever know her?
No, I never knew her. Well, so long, Pendice. Glad to have seen you.
Well, goodbye, Banting. Good day, gentlemen.
Johnson.
Good Lord. I thought we'd never get away.
Oh, Banting. For this relief, much thanks. Now listen, I'll do what I can to get that bore out of London. I don't know that we can bring it off, but I see it as my duty.
By Jove, you'll be a public benefactor.
Well, leave it to me, Banting. We'll do our best.
Ah, Johnny.
Hello, Chip.
Look, we can't go on like this.
What do you mean?
Here have I been working like a slave from morning till night, and where have you been? Do you spend your whole time in revelry?
Oh, Chip, you couldn't be more mistaken.
What have you been doing then?
Suffering the most excruciating torture.
Oh, really? I thought I was getting the worst part of the deal. Well, tell me about your torture.
Not until you've told me what's been keeping you so busy.
In one word, women.
I might know.
And I must confess, I had no idea that so many women were anxious to be rid of unwanted admirers.
And what's your solution to this particular problem?
It's simple. I substitute myself for the undesirable male. In other words, make love to the lady myself.
Forgive me for mentioning it, Chip. Aren't you engaged to a lovely young lady for whom you sacrificed a brilliant career in the diplomatic service?
Yes, she's an angel. I adore her.
Oh, well then, what about these other women? How can you make love to them?
Oh, that's strictly business.
Chip, this can't go on.
You don't think that I'd allow myself to become romantically involved with them, do you?
I don't know, Chip. I really don't know.
Now, Johnny, old boy, perhaps you'll explain why you came in late this morning looking decidedly the worse for wear.
Well, the monster I was with last night could wear down a stone wall. Before I'd been in Sir Marcus Pendice's company for more than half an hour, I felt an overpowering desire to hit him on the head with a mallet or burn his house down with him in it. He says everything 3 times over.
Bad as that, was it?
Yes. You know, he led me from Constantinople to Berlin, from Berlin to the Caucasus, flung me from the Caucasus into the National Sporting Club, gave a final stamp across my prostrate form, and then boomed away like the sea on a rocky coast.
No wonder you look done in.
Well, fortunately, I've thought of something that might get him out of London for months at a time.
What's that?
Well, I was wondering, do you happen to know a good lecture agent?
Oh, yes. Yes, the best. Charlie Black.
Charlie Black?
A remarkable man of enterprise. Now, he started in a haberdasher's. He's been most things from a ship's stoker to a dancing instructor.
Oh.
And now he's got quite a successful business as a lecture agent.
Really?
He's got a leash of excited lecturers at his heels who go yapping and barking about the country, and he's aroused enough interest to make a small profit for them and a large one for himself.
That's just the man we're looking for.
Yes, there's one thing I must warn you about there. He looks on his lecturers in exactly the same way as when he was a haberdasher, he considered collars and handkerchiefs. In other words, as saleable commodities.
I don't care about that as long as he'll take that bore Pendice and launch him on the unsuspecting British public.
Sit down, please. Now, what can I do for you gentlemen?
Now, you send lecturers out all over the country, don't you, Charlie?
Indeed we do. We've got a very good little thing going in the haunted homes of England style, or we have a line in the Poets of Scotland we can strongly recommend. Princesses I have known are wearing very well indeed, and denizens of the deep seem to be meeting a long-felt demand.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear the trade is so brisk.
The very word, Chip. Why do you ask? Are you thinking of lecturing yourself?
No, not exactly. We've got a lecturer for you.
You see, Mr. Black, he's a retired diplomat who's known everybody in his time and been everywhere.
Well, that sounds good. Has he done any lecturing?
Not in public.
But plenty in private.
Is he shy or nervous?
Oh, not a bit. Nothing can stop him once he's off. And what's more, he looks a proper old aristocrat. And he's genial and friendly.
He's the very man. Bring him along.
The first meeting between Sir Marcus Pendyce and his lecture agent was a magnificent affair. Mr. Black was treated with a condescension and patronage wonderful to behold. He found out very quickly just what the old gentleman was capable of doing. He flattered his snobbery, listened to his stories, and interrupted them when they were too lengthy with great dexterity.
That she had the prettiest feet in Europe or something. By Jove, there was a row.
Yeah, you bet there was. But with respect, Sir Marcus, we don't want to hear about it now.
Oh.
Save it for your lectures, which will be all the livelier for interesting anecdotes like that. Wouldn't you say so, Mr. Johnson?
Oh, absolutely.
Quite.
Oh, perhaps you're right. But I merely wanted to point out what a ticklish business lecturing can be for a man like me.
I'm aware of that, Sir Marcus.
Discretion is needed, and tact.
Exactly, and that's why I want you to relate your experiences to my very clever young assistant Smithers, and he will put together an orderly narrative which you'll read on the tour.
Orderly narrative, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that. No, spontaneity is my greatest gift, a gift denied to many. I am my natural self when I am unfettered by notes or narratives. No, I do beg you, Mr. Black, to allow me to talk freely, easily, as though the audience consisted of a few friends gathered round the club fire.
Later on, you'll forgive me for saying so, Sir Marcus, but however natural an orator may be, and I know from your diplomatic experience that you must have had many occasions for public...
Oh, indeed I have. I mean, once in Berlin, I remember. I was talking...
Quite so. All the same, like it or not, Sir Marcus, I insist on a written speech.
Oh.
That way, the customers will be guaranteed to get their money's worth.
Never shall I forget that first lecture. It took place in a hall in the wilds of Wimbledon. It had been well billed beforehand. There were posters up and down the streets announcing that Sir Marcus Pendyce, KCB, would give a lecture on the subject of the great world as I have known it. The hall was packed. The chairman of the evening was Sir Muttlebury Hat, JP for the district, a gentleman so curiously like Sir Marcus, on a smaller scale, that he seemed to prepare the way for the speaker by being half as grand, half as large, half as impressive.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest this evening is going to speak about the great world of politics and diplomacy, in which for so many years he played such a distinguished role as British ambassador in many of the important capitals of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Sir Marcus Pendyce. Thank you. My dear friends, I remember in Berlin, it must have been, I think, in the spring of 1871, or the late autumn of 1870, perhaps. It was about the time of the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War. An unnecessary conflict, I and my colleagues felt. And we did as much as we could diplomatically to avert it. Well, I remember very well an interview I had with Bismarck, a very capable man who, by the way, spoke English very well, albeit with a rather strong accent. Yet the Germans are very good linguists, you know. One undersecretary at the his brother played the violin in the opera orchestra. Now, he spoke 7 languages, including an African tongue that is spoken only by one tribe in a remote area near Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria. Yes, and incidentally,
if it weren't for the British Empire... as I say, if it weren't for the British Empire...
Mr. Chairman, Sir Butterberry.
What? What? Yes. Finished, have you, Sir Marcus? Finished? Oh, yes. Finished. But, enjoyed it so much. Hope you have, my friends. Well, now, I'll sit down.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you will join me in thanking Sir Marcus for his most interesting talk.
After that dreadful evening, there began one of the most curious episodes of my life. There was no reason whatsoever why I should accompany Sir Marcus on his tour, but there was something simple and childish about the poor gentleman that touched my sympathies, and made Sir Marcus, in my eyes, a pitiful figure. I felt I had to go with him. Chip, of course, didn't like the idea of my leaving the office. He didn't like it at all. Nevertheless, in the third week of our tour, when we arrived at Edinburgh, it was wet, cold, and windy, and that night of our arrival at the Caledonian Hotel, sitting on his bed in his pyjamas, Sir Marcus poured out his grief and frustration.
Johnson. Oh, Johnson. I've never felt so miserable in my life.
What's the matter, Sir Marcus?
I've got the most dreadful headache, and my stomach is upset. I'm afraid the fish we had at dinner didn't agree with me.
Oh, well, I feel all right.
You haven't a care in the world. I'm weighed down by worry.
What are you worried about?
My lecture tour. It's not going well. Last night the hall was half empty.
Well, it wasn't properly advertised, and the weather was bad.
No. They didn't like it. My anecdotes, all my delightful little stories about famous men and beautiful women were lost on them. They scarcely laughed once. I'm beginning to think they've no sense of humor.
You know what the trouble is, Sir Marcus?
What?
You're not sticking to your lecture.
Oh.
The text Charlie Black had prepared.
Well,
Well, if you won't control your urge to say the first thing that comes into your head...
I told you, that's quite impossible. Spontaneity is my strongest point.
Well, then there's only one thing you can do. Abandon the tour.
Abandon the tour? Is that what you want me to do?
Oh, certainly not. Now, if that happened...
Yes?
Well, if that happened, I'd be very disappointed.
Rest assured, Johnson, that irrespective of the public response, I will never tire of lecturing. I will go on and on, touring the length and breadth of the British Isles. In fact, I remember poor Millie Sparks once told me that if ever I wanted to go on...
It seemed indeed as though now it was physically impossible for Sir Marcus to stop talking. At Edinburgh, before a very thin audience indeed, he talked for a solid 2 hours, and finally had to be dragged from the platform. Even in his sleep I could hear him murmuring, "I remember in 71," and so on. Poor Sir Marcus. And there were 20 more lectures for him to deliver. We descended from Edinburgh to Durham, and there, in the small concert room in the town hall, some 20 or 30 people were all his audience.
My dear friend, I remember in Berlin, it must have been, I think, in the spring of 1871, or the late autumn of 1870, perhaps. Well, it was about the time of the outbreak of the Franco.
From the open door of the little room behind the platform, I could see the hall with all its cruel exposure of empty seats, and my heart went out to poor Sir Marcus. Then I noticed, perched on the front row, 2 dear old rosy-cheeked, white-haired ladies, and with them a nice-looking young man. Their eyes were fixed adoringly on Sir Marcus throughout the lecture.
Have you ever seen such a distinguished-looking man?
Sir Marcus, how fine it sounds. Much.
What? I'm listening, dear.
My object was to get to Cairo, but I got stuck on the falls en route, and I had to get out and carry a little boat for 23 miles. King and Queen of Serbia, and the young lady on my right asked me whether I liked her pearls, and I said, I like the neck thereon better. Oh, that was good, wasn't it? Well, that's all, my friend.
It was then that Sir Marcus noticed the two delighted old ladies. One of them actually waved her hand, and he went down onto the floor and spoke to them.
Good evening, lady.
Oh, Sir Marcus.
I hope I may have the privilege.
Sir Marcus. What a wonderful lecture. We enjoyed it so much, didn't we, dear?
Oh, yes, we certainly did.
Well, it's most kind of you to say so.
No, that's
I remember an occasion once in Constantinople. Yes, I was minister there, you know. Now, don't let this upset you, ladies, but a young cousin of mine there got himself eaten by a shark. Yes, bitten in half he was.
Sir Marcus was with them a long time. I waited and waited, but at last went off to the hotel, not wishing to interfere or cut short any happiness he might be securing.
Good morning, Johnson.
Good morning, Sir Marcus.
Yeah, so sorry about last night. Rather late when I got in. Didn't want to disturb you. As a matter of fact...
you were with your new friends?
Yes, that's correct, yes. The Mrs. Piggott and their nephew. Two adorable old ladies. By the way, I'm going to lunch with them today. Hope you don't mind.
Not at all, Sir Marcus. Not at all.
What?
As the next lecture was a few days off, I went back to London and found Charlie Black in a rage.
Look, Johnson, that diplomat of yours is a complete failure, and I'm calling off the other lectures.
Oh, you can't do that, Mr. Black. Give him another chance. The whole happiness of his life depends upon it.
As far as I'm concerned, he's finished. The silly old fool.
Oh, please.
I warned him not to get talking all that stuff on his own. If he'd stuck to what we wrote out for him, he'd have been quite all right. But not he. Conceited old puppet.
Needless to say, I decided to stay in London. Week after week passed, during which time I daily expected to hear of the dreaded return to the saucepan of the club bore. Then it happened, quite by chance, that Chip and I met at a dinner party, a canon of Durham Cathedral, who was having a week of theatres in the metropolis and enjoying himself very much indeed.
By the way, sir, do you happen to have seen anything up there of an old fellow called Pendyce, who was once a diplomat?
Why, yes. Old man with white hair and eyeglass, never stops talking.
Yes, that's the man.
Oh, yes. He's living out at Fetters Moor, 5 miles from Durham, with 2 old ladies.
Do you know by any chance how long he's going to stay there?
Oh, he's there for the rest of his natural days. He's just what they've been searching for all their lives. They're dear old things, those 2 ladies, but they're the biggest snobs in Europe. And to have a real ambassador with a title living with them gives them a happiness that is, delightful to behold.
Yes, but how can they endure it?
Endure it? Endure what?
He's the biggest bore in Christendom.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't matter. Didn't you know? They're both stone deaf.
Stone deaf?
The Talkative Diplomat, the second of 3 short stories by Hugh Walpole in our series Johnson and Chippet, dramatized for radio by Peter Mellors. The cast was as follows: Johnson, Bernard Hepton; Chippet, David Timson; Sir Marcus Pendyce, Gerard Green; Banting, Colin Starkey; Charles Black, Douglas Blackwell; Sir Muttlebury Hat, Bernard Brown; Emily Piggott, Gwen Cheryl; Anne Piggott, Mia Soteriou; and the Canon of Durham, David Garth. Technical presentation, Keith Perrin. Johnson and Chippet was a BBC World Service drama production directed by Walter Acosta.
Now the scene is London in the 1920s.
The position is this, Mr. Johnson. My fiancée is completely under the domination of her brother.
Oh.
It can only lead to murder.
We present Johnson and Chippet, a series of 3 stories by Hugh Walpole, dramatized for radio by Peter Mellors, with Bernard Hepton as Seymour Johnson and David Timson as Clarence Chippet. This week, The Man Who Lost His Identity.
Murder, Mr. Manning? Isn't that a little extreme?
You don't know my future brother-in-law.
What's his name?
Henry Pritchard. The most complete egoist yet known to history.
Oh, come, Mr. Manning, you exaggerate.
I mean every word. If I hear very much more from Henry of how fine he is, or how clever, how rich, how handsome, or how well he played rugby football 15 years ago, or why it is he likes his eggs scrambled rather than boiled, or the fun he gets from using a certain sort of brown polish on his shoes that nobody else has yet discovered, well, there will be one day a very nice murder somewhere in the vicinity of Chelsea. I'll be hanged, and my darling little Daisy will be a widow almost before she's realized she's a bride.
Oh, you're joking, I hope, Mr. Manning.
Mr. Johnson, I have never been more serious in my life. You see, I understand that you and your partner have undertaken a number of cases of just this kind. Well, removing people who are tiresome, changing their characters, making them see life differently.
That's true.
Tell me your terms. Money will be no trouble, I assure you.
Well, this is our general custom. Now, first we must meet your future brother-in-law. What did you say his name was?
Henry Pritchard.
Henry Pritchard. Then I will discuss the case with my partner, Mr. Chippet, and if we have a plan that promises success, we'll tell you. Now, at that point, you pay us £75 down, and then another 75 if we succeed. Shortly after this, I made Henry Pritchard's acquaintance. He was a bullock of a man, one of those Englishmen who, having worshipped athletics in their youth, have in middle age allowed their muscles to run to fat. He was something of a dandy in his dress, and wore bright ties that represented, on different days of the week, various athletic clubs which had the honor of his genial membership. Genial he was. He not only slapped you on the back in the first 5 minutes of your meeting him, but roared with laughter at nothing at all, as I found when I had luncheon with him and Manning at the Rococo Club.
I think I like my steak, not exactly underdone, you know, but, well, nearly so.
Well, really, Pritchard, I think there's nothing better.
And another thing, what's your name? Oh, Johnson, yeah, Johnson. I find that sauces always spoil a fine piece of meat, matter of fact.
I agree with you as a general rule, Pritchard.
I'll tell you the truth, Manning. I don't care whether you agree with me or not. That is the sort of chap I am, always have been. make up my own mind, and then come what may, stick to my guns. The fact is that I am not quite like other fellows. See, I know exactly what I want and why I want it. I attribute my success in life to that very thing. You may not believe it about me, but many people have noticed that in my whole make-up, if I may say so, I never hesitate, but I go straight for a thing and take it. And when I've got it, you know what? I keep it. I say what? Oh, sorry, I'll just tell you another thing. Johnson, yeah.
By the end of the meal, I had conceived a plan. After consulting with Manning, I hurried to the office to see my partner, Clarence Chippet.
Chip, I need your help.
Haven't I got enough on my plate?
Now listen.
Look, we're doing very well, and I'm extremely busy.
Yes, but I know this case will appeal to you. It's quite romantic in its way, and different from any other we've had so far.
Oh, really?
Can a human being, if sufficient persuasion be brought upon him, be led to believe that he is not himself, but somebody else?
Don't tell me we're going to philosophize now.
It's a fascinating proposition, don't you think?
What are you up to, Johnny? Is this a kind of lecture?
Chip, let's be practical. There's a young lady who's engaged to be married, and she needs our help.
Ah. Oh, well, that's different, old boy. I'm your man. What's to be done?
A little play acting.
Oh, I'm very good at that. You remember when we were at school and I played the part of Sir Toby Belch in Twelfth Night? Everybody said that...
and I was your drunken companion's Randall Eguchi. I think I was rather good, too.
Yes. Oh, what fun we had, eh?
What fun we will have with this insufferable fool, Henry Pritchard.
Yeah. Who's that?
I say, that's good. That's very good.
Well, here goes.
Yeah, that's what I like about this paper. It sees the funny side of things, just like I do. There can't be many chaps with a sense of humour like
hello, Forrester, old fellow.
What? My name is Pritchard. Henry Pritchard.
Where have you been? I haven't seen you for ages.
I'm sorry, I've got the wrong man.
Oh, my dear guy, what is the matter with you? Well, it's true we haven't met for 18 months, but don't be silly. I want to have a chat with you.
I'm very sorry, sir. You've made some mistake. I've never seen you in my life before.
Look here, guy. Are you tight or something?
Now, look here.
Don't be a silly ass.
What?
I want to thank you for all you did for Everett. You're really wonderful, the way you take trouble with
You're
people.
wrong, sir. You are mistaking me for somebody else. And now, if you don't mind, I have more important things to attend to.
How did it go, Chip?
Oh, perfect. That pompous ass was completely fooled. We've got him worried, Johnny.
Wait till I've had a go at him. He won't know who he is.
Tell you the truth, Johnny, I didn't know who you were. That big hat and those outlandish clothes. And the false moustache. You know, your own mother wouldn't recognize you.
Well, now, if I just slip this eyeglass on...
Oh, you're another man, Johnny. Another man altogether. Look out, he's coming.
Wish me luck.
Don't worry, you'll fool him all right. Just remember to disguise your voice.
Hello, Forrester.
Bravo. See you later, Johnny.
Hello, Forrester.
What?
I am glad to see you.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Where on earth have you been all this time?
You've made some mistake. My name is Pritchard.
Don't be an ass, Forrester. Surely you haven't forgotten Monte Carlo.
Monty be damned.
I'm Bennett.
I don't care the devil who you are. I have never seen you before in my life, and I
now,
don't
look here. I've got to speak to you.
What?
I've been wanting to see you for weeks. That business of Emily Clay is all settled.
Emily Clay? I tell you, sir, I don't know you. I don't know you. Taxi! Taxi! I say, taxi!
Daisy! Henry!
what's happened?
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Tell me, Daisy, my name is Henry, isn't it?
What?
Henry Pritchard, that's my name, isn't it, dear Daisy?
Well, of course it is. I'm your sister. I should know.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Ah, but that means there must be somebody in London exactly like me.
Sit down, Henry. You don't look well.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You see, they mistook me for him.
Well, who did?
They mistook me for him.
Henry, what are
They
you
did.
talking about?
What an extraordinary thing. How can there be somebody exactly like me?
Henry, I do wish you would explain.
Do you know, Daisy, it's awful. You see, if there's a fellow just like me, he may be buying things in my name at shops, leading a disgraceful life, or anything. It's unheard of, such a thing. I mean, it isn't as though I was just like anybody else, is it?
No, dear, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
In my opinion, you're not like anybody else in the world.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Hello?
Hello?
Johnson and Chippet, ball removers.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes?
George Manning here.
Oh, hello, Mr. Manning. What news?
Wonderful. Thanks to you and Mr. Chippet, my future brother-in-law is beginning to have doubts about his identity.
That must be a blow to his self-esteem.
The first of many, I trust.
Oh, we'll have him humble yet.
What a blessing that'll be for all of us, but especially my fiancée. Daisy's suffered so long from her brother's domineering manner.
I'm sure she has, poor girl.
But we must keep up the attack until that egoist is on his knees begging for mercy.
Mr. Chippet and I have done our part. Now it's your turn, Mr. Manning.
My turn? What do you want me to do?
Well, suppose you disguise yourself as someone he could never have set eyes on in his whole life.
Right, what do you want now then, ladies and gentlemen?
Whiskey and soda, please.
Whiskey and soda it is, sir.
Thank you very much. Pardon me, sir. Would you allow me to get to the bar?
Lord.
Why, it isn't old Guy. My name, sir, is Guy. Whatever's the matter? May I have a word with you, sir? A word with me? Yes.
Happy now, sir?
My dear Guy, you better not touch that drink. You've obviously had enough already. No, will you listen to me for a moment? My name is Pritchard. Henry Pritchard. I live with my sister in Half Moon Street. I have never seen you in my life before. What on earth are you talking about? Listen to me, please. Within the last few days, two men, complete strangers to me, have addressed me as Guy Forrester. They apparently know me well. You see, there's obviously someone in London who's exactly like me.
Here, Guy, don't be an ass.
No.
I know you were annoyed with me at Wimbledon the other day.
No.
I suppose you've got some game on now to pay me off. I'm sorry about the other day. But it really was a crazy thing to double on that hand of yours. You knew I hadn't any heart.
I assure you, sir, that I have never seen you in my life before tonight. Listen, would you mind telling me who it is that you think I am?
Who I think you are?
Yes.
Well, if you want to go on with this silly game, I'll inform you. You're Guy Forrester, and I'm Anthony Bellows.
Go on.
With whom, 3 winters ago, you went out to St. Moritz.
I see. Go on.
Who gave you some good shooting last autumn.
Go on.
Who wrote to you 10 days ago asking where you were, whose letter you never answered, and who, weakling though he is, will give you the rottenest hiding of your life if you don't stop this silly nonsense and come to your senses.
Sir, I assure you you have the wrong man,
Hang it, the interval's over.
Oh.
We've got to hurry to get back to our place.
No, I say, old fellow, please, listen a moment. Please believe me when I say
You'll hear from me in the morning, Guy.
Oh.
It's a pretty poor joke, not a bit funny.
Joke? Oh, no.
Hello, Johnson and Chippet.
Hello, Manning here.
Ah, Mr. Manning. How did it go?
Excellent, excellent. Mission accomplished.
Well done. Many congratulations.
What do we do now?
Oh, have no fear, Mr. Manning. Everything's going according to plan. We'll bring him to his knees yet.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes?
There are some letters for you.
Oh, give them to me, Daisy, quick. What? Oh, thank God. They're all addressed to Henry Pritchard.
Who else would they be addressed to?
To this chap, Forrester. Everybody's mistaking me for him.
Really? How confusing for you.
Confusing? It's terrible. It's terrible. But, you know, Daisy, I've noticed something. They seem very eager to speak to me, or rather, to Forrester. And, the odd thing is, Daisy, they're much more cordial than my own friends are to me.
Oh, you mean...
What I mean, Daisy, is that Guy Forrester is more popular than I am. Does that seem strange to you?
Oh, Henry, you know I love you, dear.
No. I mean that chap who came up to me in the theatre bar, Bennett, he said his name was. Now, I liked the look of him extremely. He's just the sort of chap I'd like for a friend. Why do I only meet men like that when I'm taken for somebody else?
Oh.
Daisy, could there possibly be something wrong with me?
Henry, dear.
Yes?
Do you want an honest answer?
Go on, tell me.
Well, dear, my fiancé says...
Never mind what George says. What do you think?
I think if you thought about others a little more and didn't talk about yourself quite so much, I mean, it can be a little boring sometimes.
Oh, so that's it. I'm a self-centered bore to family and friends alike. Is that it?
Oh, please,
no,
dear.
Answer me.
No, don't take it to heart, Henry.
Don't take it to heart. Oh. Don't take it to heart.
Our plans seemed to be proceeding apace, and then we had a piece of marvellous luck. Towards 7 o'clock one evening, I was walking down Haymarket when I encountered a great friend of mine, Miss Helen Freed, one of the prettiest, nicest, and, incidentally, most independent young ladies in London.
Johnny!
Helen, my dear.
What a surprise!
Where are you going?
Oh, I thought I'd have a bite somewhere and then join a girlfriend at the theatre. Oh.
At that very moment, Henry Pritchard passed us, stopped an instant to look at the posters outside His Majesty's Theatre, and then vanished down the steps into the Carlton Grill. It was then that I had my inspiration.
What are you up to?
Helen, do you want to have a little fun and at the same time do some good?
Need you ask, Johnny?
Did you see that man who just passed? The one who stopped to look at the poster?
Yes. Who is he? I'd rather like the look of the lonely old dear.
You women. Now come, let's go to the Carlton Grill. I'll tell you all about it.
Oh, yes, Les, I'm dying to hear
His
all.
name's Henry Pritchard.
Guy, my dear, how lovely to see you. And alone, too. You, the most popular man in London. What a piece of luck.
Oh, won't you sit down?
Of course, dear Guy.
No, you've made a mistake, but never mind. At least, never mind for a moment. I think you'd be interested to hear about the mistake. It's a most extraordinary thing.
God,
but I don't
this?
want you to bother about that. At least, what I mean is, if you do bother about it, you won't want to talk to me any longer. Yes, waiter.
Would Madame like to order?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, I think I'll have the chicken.
Very good, Madame.
My dear Guy, I don't know what you're talking about. This mistake I'm supposed to have made. But it's the luckiest thing in the world that I should get this chance of telling you that I think you were simply splendid about poor Lawrence.
Lawrence?
That you should have taken all that trouble about a man whom you scarcely know, simply because... Well, because you've got a certain liking for me, I suppose. It's flattering, to say the least.
But really,
No, don't say anything about it. I know. I've heard from lots of people it's the hardest thing in the world to get a job for anybody these days. And the trouble you must have taken about Lawrence is simply marvellous. And I'll never forget it.
Look here. Do believe me, do listen to me. I can't let you praise me for things that I haven't done. you have made a mistake. It's happened to me several times lately. You see, there's some man going about London who is exactly like me. He must be my very image. Oh, I'd like to be him if I could, but well, I can't if I'm not, can I?
Oh, Guy, are you doing this for a bet? Or are you trying to tell me that you want to be by yourself this evening? Or what is it? We've always been honest with one another, haven't we?
Oh, I am being honest, I am indeed. I tell you that what I say is true. My name is Henry Pritchard. I live in Half Moon Street.
Oh, really?
I've never seen you before, although I wish to heaven I had. I don't know your name, nor anything about you, but, well, I'll be Forrester or anyone else you like. I'll take credit for any good deed in the world if only you'll stay for a little and talk to me.
Madame.
Oh, my chicken. Thank you, waiter.
Thank you, madame.
I don't know what your game is, Guy, but whatever it is, I'm with you. You've got some reason for this, I suppose, and well, you like to be a mysterious man in Half Moon Street for the rest of our meal. Why? Go ahead. I've imagined myself all sorts of people at different times, so while I eat my chicken, you can pretend to be somebody else, and if I like the person you pretend to be, I'll pretend to be somebody else too. Bung-ho.
Oh, bung-ho. But you're sure it won't bore you if I tell you about myself?
Oh, really, Guy? You're so modest. Not many men are, you know, and I like you for it.
I used to be pretty well satisfied with myself, you know. I was once a famous footballer, and I did rather well in business. But then, strangely, things seemed to go wrong with me. Suddenly, I didn't seem to have any friends. I began to wonder whether, after all, it might be my own fault. And then, this extraordinary thing happened. People started taking me for this chap Forrester, who seemed to have so many friends.
It's this modesty of yours, Guy. Your consideration for others that people find so appealing.
Anyway, I must say I've been enjoying myself much more as Guy Forrester than I ever did as Henry Pritchard.
What a glorious game! So amusing and novel.
No, believe me, it is not a game.
All right, Guy. I'll believe you.
Thank you. I wonder if... Would you allow me to see you again?
See you again? You're really extraordinary tonight, Guy. Is there ever a time when I'm not delighted to see you? Come and lunch with me tomorrow, 1 o'clock. You know, the same old rooms, 18A Walpole Street, Chelsea.
But I don't know your name. No, really, I don't. It isn't a game. I have told you nothing but the truth. I have never seen you in my life before. But heaven help me, I intend to see you as often as I can.
Oh, well, you shall have your way. We'll play the game to the end. My name is Helen Freed.
Helen Freed.
With 2 E's, not with an A as you once spelled it.
Was this the face that launched 1,000 ships and burnt the topless towers of Ilium?
Henry?
Sweet Helen, make me immortal with a kiss.
Henry?
What? Oh, hello, Daisy.
What has come over you?
My dear sister, I am in love, and my Helen is fairer than the evening air, clad in the beauty of 1,000 stars.
Henry, this is very sudden. How long have you known her?
Oh, what has time got to do with it? Well, since yesterday, actually. But that doesn't make any difference. I'm off now to propose.
Propose?
Yes. How do I look?
Very handsome, Henry. Very handsome indeed.
She can't refuse me, can she?
Henry, I don't know if this is...
Oh, of course she can't, of course she can't. Oh, wish me luck, Daisy. and all the happiness in the world, fairer than the evening air, clad in beauty of 1,000 stars. Sweet Helen.
Guy!
There.
Oh, what lovely flowers.
Oh, Helen, won't you give me a little kiss?
Well, perhaps just a little one.
And now, look at me, Helen. Henry Pritchard is asking you to marry him. Henry Pritchard. I don't know anything about you, except that I love you, and that I believe you love me. And surely whether my name is Pritchard or Forrester doesn't matter. If it's Forrester's character you care for, then I'll have Forrester's character. I'll be just what he was, and then I'll be better than that because he isn't married to you and I shall be.
Wait a moment. We're going too far, too fast. I don't know you at all.
You don't know me. Why, you told me yesterday you'd known me for years, and that I was one of the best friends you had, and that you were terribly grateful. If you don't know me, what about Lance, for whom you said I got a job the other day? Why were you so glad to see me if you don't know me?
I was glad to see you, because I had never seen you in my life before. And you'll never want to see me again because I behaved disgracefully and I'm ashamed of myself.
What?
And glad, too, because, well, if I hadn't behaved disgracefully, I would never have spoken to you and never have had the happiest hour of my life.
Helen, what's all this about? I don't understand a word.
It was a plot, a practical joke. Your sister's fiancé was afraid you'd make a rather boring brother-in-law.
Ah, but do you think I'd make a boring husband?
Not now.
You don't think I talk too much about myself?
No, not in the least. In fact, all I want is to hear you talk about yourself for weeks and weeks.
But when we've been married a year, you won't want to.
Well, let's get married and see.
What? Oh, sweet, sweet Ellen. Oh.
Well, Mr. Johnson, here's the second £75, as agreed.
Oh, thank you.
We can't thank you enough for your help. And, of course, Mr. Chippet.
Oh, always delighted to be of service, Miss Pritchard.
Chip. You know, it says a great deal for your brother that he bears no malice against anybody.
Oh, how could he, Johnny? He's so terribly in love that he can think only well of all the world.
So look where all this plotting has led. To not one, but 2 weddings.
That was The Man Who Lost His Identity, the last of 3 short stories by Hugh Walpole in our series Johnson and Chippet, dramatized for radio by Peter Mellors. The cast was as follows: Johnson, Bernard Hepton; Chippet, David Timson; Henry Pritchard, Martin Jarvis; Manning, Graham Blocky; Helen, Helena Breck; and Daisy, Jenny Funnell. Other parts were played by Gerard Green. The technical presentation for the series was by Keith Perrin, Veronica Cheng, and Jonathan Russell. Johnson and Chippet was a BBC World Service drama production directed by Walter Acosta.